Tonight is the 4th of August 2011, and this is the 19th night we're talking on the Digha Nikaya Suttas. Tonight we come to Sutta 24, Patika Sutta. Thus have I heard. Once the Lord was staying among the Malas. Anupiya is the name of a Mala town, and the Lord, having dressed in the early morning and taken his robe and bowl, went to Anupiya for alms. Then he thought, it is too early for me to go into Anupiya for alms. Suppose I were to visit the hermitage of the wanderer, Bhagava Gota. And he did so. And the wanderer, Bhagava Gota, said, Come, blessed Lord, welcome, blessed Lord. At last the blessed Lord has gone out of his way to come here. Be seated, Lord, a seat is prepared. The Lord sat down on the prepared seat, and Bhagava took a low stool and sat down to one side. Then he said, Lord, a few days ago Sunakata the Lichavi came to me and said, Bhagava, I have left the blessed Lord. I am no longer under his rule. Is that really so, Lord? It is true, Bhagava. A few days ago Sunakata came to me, saluted me, sat down to one side and said, Lord, I am leaving the blessed Lord. I am no longer under the Lord's rule. So I said to him, Well, Sunakata, did I ever say to you, Come, Sunakata, be under my rule? No, Lord. Or did you ever say to me, Lord, I will be under your rule? No, Lord. So, Sunakata, if I did not say that to you, and you did not say that to me, you foolish man, who are you and what are you giving up? Consider, foolish man, how far the fault is yours. Stop here for a moment. So you see, that's why sometimes, like here, we generally don't invite a monk to come here or invite a layman to become a monk, be a disciple, because if something happens, it doesn't work out, then it's like since we never invited him to come, so if he leaves, it's not a problem. But if you invite somebody, then it's what do you say? A bit not so nice, embarrassing if he leaves. Well, Lord, you have not performed any miracles. And did I ever say to you, Come under my rule, Sunakata, and I will perform miracles for you? No, Lord. Or did you ever say to me, Lord, I will be under your rule if you will perform miracles for me? No, Lord. Then it appears, Sunakata, that I made no such promises, and you made no such conditions. Such being the case, you foolish man, who are you and what are you giving up? What do you think, Sunakata? Whether miracles are performed or not, is it the purpose of my teaching Dhamma to lead whoever practices it to the total destruction of suffering? It is, Lord. So, Sunakata, whether miracles are performed or not, the purpose of my teaching Dhamma is to lead whoever practices it to the total destruction of suffering. Then what purpose would the performance of miracles serve? Consider, you foolish man, how far the fault is yours. Well, Lord, you did not teach the beginning of things. And did I ever say to you, Come under my rule, Sunakata, and I will teach you the beginning of things? No, Lord. Such being the case, you foolish man, who are you and what are you giving up? Sunakata, you have in many ways spoken in praise of me among the Vajjans, saying, This blessed Lord is an Arahant, Sammasambuddha, endowed with wisdom and conduct, well-farer, knower of the worlds, incomparable trainer of men to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, the Buddha, the blessed Lord. You have in many ways spoken in praise of the Dhamma, saying, Well proclaimed by the blessed Lord is the Dhamma, visible here and now, timeless, inviting inspection, leading onward, to be realized by the wise, each one for himself. You have in many ways spoken in praise of the Sangha of monks, saying, Well trained is the Sangha of the Lord's disciples, trained in uprightness, methodically trained, excellently trained, is the order of the Lord's disciples, that is, the 4 pairs of men, the 8 classes of individuals. This is the Sangha of the Lord's disciples, worthy of respect, worthy of homage, worthy of gifts, worthy of salutation, and unsurpassed field in the world for merit. In these ways you have spoken in praise of me, of the Dhamma, and of the Sangha among the Svajins. And I say to you, I declare to you, Sunakata, there will be those who will say, Sunakata the Lichavi was unable to maintain the holy life under the ascetic Gotama, and being thus unable, he abandoned the training and reverted to the base life. That Sunakata is what they will say. And Bhagava, at my words, Sunakata left this Dhamma Vinaya like one condemned to hell. Sorry for a moment. So here the Buddha is telling him, at one time you were praising the Buddha, praising the Dhamma, praising the Sangha. Now you are leaving the training, and people will say, you were not up to the standard to lead the holy life. They will criticize you, but still he left. Once, Bhagava, I was staying among the Kulus at a place called Uttaraka, a town of theirs. In the early morning, I went with robe and bowl into Uttaraka for alms, with Sunakata as my attendant. And at that time, the naked ascetic Korakatiya, the dog man, was going round on all 4s, sprawling on the ground and chewing and eating his food with his mouth alone. Seeing him, Sunakata thought, now that is a real Arahant ascetic who goes round on all 4s, sprawling on the ground and chewing and eating his food with his mouth alone. And I, knowing his thought in my own mind, said to him, you foolish man, do you claim to be a follower of the Sakyan? And he said, Lord, what do you mean by this question? And the Buddha said, Sunakata, did you not, on seeing that naked ascetic going round on all 4s, think, now that is a real Arahant ascetic who goes round on all 4s, sprawling on the ground and chewing and eating his food with his mouth alone? And he said, I did, Lord. Does the Blessed Lord begrudge others their Arahantship? And the Buddha said, I do not begrudge others their Arahantship, you foolish man. It is only in you that this evil view has arisen. Cast it aside, lest it should be to your harm and sorrow for a long time. This naked ascetic, Kurakatiya, whom you regard as a true Arahant, will die in 7 days from indigestion, and when he is dead, he will appear among the Kalakanja Asuras, who are the very lowest grade of Asuras. And when he is dead, he will be cast aside on a heap of birana grass in the charnel ground. If you want to, Sunakata, you can go to him and ask him if he knows his fate. And it may be that he will tell you, friend Sunakata, I know my fate. I have been reborn among the Kalakanja Asuras, the very lowest grade of Asuras. Stop here for a moment. So this dog duty ascetic, Kurakatiya, he imitates the dog. He goes naked and then goes on all his 4 limbs and walk like a dog. And also when people offer him food, he will not accept it with his hand. He will ask people to throw it on the ground. And he will eat the food like a dog. So maybe eating all the dog food, he is going to get indigestion, and the Buddha said he's going to pass away. You notice here, the Buddha says that the Kalakanja Asuras are the very lowest grade of Asuras. I remember I mentioned a few days ago in the Mahasamaya Sutta, one of these suttas, where, the Mahasamaya Sutta, number 20, Digha Nikaya, number 20, when the Devas came to see the Buddha, and the Buddha described the Devas to the monks, and he mentioned that the Kalakanja Asuras are among the Devas there. And here it is said that Kalakanja Asuras are the very lowest grade of Asuras. So there cannot be any lower type of Asuras. And even the lowest grade of Asuras are Devas. But later books like the Abhidhamma and the Mahayana books, they say Asuras belong to the woeful planes. The reasoning being like in sub-commentary, it is said that Asuras are three types. One is Devas, one is ghosts, and one is hell beings. So because of the ghost grade and the hell beings, they say Asuras belong to the woeful planes. That's why in the Abhidhamma and in the Mahayana books, both of which are later books, they say that there are six destinations of rebirth, what in Chinese is called Liu Tao Lun Hui. But actually the Buddha only talked about 5 destinations of rebirth. So you can see from these two suttas, number 20 and 24, that these people, when they say that the Asuras belong to the woeful planes, it shows that they are not familiar with the suttas. Then to continue. Then Sunakata went to Kurakatya and told him what I had prophesied, adding, "Therefore, friend Kurakatya, be very careful what you eat and drink, so that the ascetic Gotama's words may be proved wrong." And Sunakata was so sure that the Tathagata's words would be proved wrong that he counted up the 7 days one by one. But on the 7th day, Kurakatya died of indigestion. And when he was dead, he reappeared among the Kalakanja Asuras, and his body was cast aside on a heap of birana grass in the charnel ground. And Sunakata heard of this, so he went to the heap of birana grass in the charnel ground where Kurakatya was lying, struck the body 3 times with his hand, and said, "Friend Kurakatya, do you know your fate?" And Kurakatya sat up and rubbed his back with his hand, and said, "Friend Sunakata, I know my fate. I have been reborn among the Kalakanja Asuras, the very lowest grade of Asuras." And with that he fell back again. Then Sunakata came to me, saluted me, and sat down to one side. And I said to him, "Well, Sunakata, what do you think? Has what I told you about the dog man Kurakatya come true or not?" And he said, "It has come about the way you said, Lord, and not otherwise." And the Buddha said, "Well, what do you think, Sunakata? Has a miracle been performed or not?" And he said, "Certainly, Lord, this being so, a miracle has been performed, and not otherwise." And the Buddha said, "Well then, you foolish man, do you still say to me after I have performed such a miracle, 'Well, Lord, you have not performed any miracles'? Consider, you foolish man, how far the fault is yours." And at my words, Sunakata left this Dhamma Vinaya like one condemned to hell. You see this Sunakata, even after the Buddha made the prophecy, he didn't believe the Buddha. He believed the external sect ascetic more, and he went to warn the external sect ascetic what the Buddha said, just to prove the Buddha wrong. Once, Bhagava, I was staying at Vesali at the gabled hall in the great forest, and at that time there was a naked ascetic living in Vesali called Kalara Muttaka, who enjoyed great gains and fame in the Vajjan capital. He had undertaken 7 rules of practice. As long as I live, I will be a naked ascetic and will not put on any clothes. As long as I live, I will remain chaste and abstain from sexual intercourse. As long as I live, I will subsist on strong drink and meat, abstaining from boiled rice and sour milk. As long as I live, I will never go beyond the Udena shrine to the east of Vesali, the Gotamaka shrine to the south, the Sattamba shrine to the west, nor the Bahuputta shrine to the north. And it was through having undertaken these 7 rules that he enjoyed the greatest gains and fame of all in the Vajjan capital. Now Sunakata went to see Kalara Mutaka and asked him a question which he could not answer. And because he could not answer it, he showed signs of anger, rage, and petulance. Then Sunakata thought, I might cause this real Arahant ascetic offense. I don't want anything to happen that would be to my lasting harm and misfortune. Then Sunakata came to me, saluted me, and sat down to one side. I said to him, You foolish man, do you claim to be a follower of the Sakyan? And he said, Lord, what do you mean by this question? And the Buddha said, Sunakata, did you not go to see Kalara Mutaka and ask him a question he could not answer? And did he not thereupon show signs of anger, rage, and petulance? And did you not think, I might cause this real Arahant ascetic offense? I don't want anything to happen that would be to my lasting harm and misfortune. And he said, I did, Lord. Does the Blessed Lord begrudge others their Arahantship? And the Buddha said, I do not begrudge others their Arahantship, you foolish man. It is only in you that this evil view has arisen. Cast it aside, lest it be to your harm and sorrow for a long time. This naked ascetic, Kalara Mutaka, whom you regard as a true Arahant, will before long be living clothed and married, subsisting on boiled rice and sour milk. He will go beyond all the shrines of Vesali and will die, having entirely lost his reputation. And indeed, all this came about. Then Sunakata, having heard what had happened, came to me. And I said, Well, Sunakata, what do you think? Has what I told you about Kalara Mutaka come about or not? Has a miracle been performed or not? And at my words, Sunakata left this Dhamma Vinaya like one condemned to hell. Once, Bhagava, I was staying at Vesali in the gable hall in the great forest. And at that time, there was a naked ascetic living in Vesali called Patika Sutta, who enjoyed great gains and fame in the Vajjan capital. And he made this declaration in the assembly of Vesali. The ascetic Gotama claims to be a man of wisdom, and I make the same claim. It is right that a man of wisdom should show it by performing miracles. If the ascetic Gotama will come halfway to meet me, I will do likewise. Then we can both work miracles. And if the ascetic Gotama performs 1 miracle, I will perform 2. If he performs 2, I will perform 4. And if he performs 4, I will perform 8. However many miracles the ascetic Gotama performs, I will perform twice as many. Then Sunakata came to me, saluted me, sat down to one side, and told me what Patika Sutta had said. I said, Sunakata, that naked ascetic Patika Sutta is not capable of meeting me face to face unless he takes back his words, abandons that thought, and gives up that view. And if he thinks otherwise, his head will split in pieces. And Sunakata said, Lord, let the Blessed Lord have a care what he says. Let the well-farer have a care what he says. And the Buddha said, what do you mean by saying that to me? And Sunakata said, Lord, the Blessed Lord might make an absolute statement about Patika Putta's coming, but he might come in some altered shape and thus falsify the Blessed Lord's words. Stop here for a moment. So you see this useless disciple and has no faith in the Buddha, has faith more in the external ascetics. Then the Buddha said, but Sunakata, would the Tathagata make any statement that was ambiguous? And he said, Lord, does the Blessed Lord know by his own mind what would happen to Patika Sutta? Or has some Deva told the Tathagata? The Buddha said, Sunakata, I know it in my own mind, and I have also been told by a Deva. For Ajita, the general of the Lichavis, died the other day, and has been reborn in the company of the 33 gods. He came to see me and told me, Lord, Patika Sutta, the naked ascetic, is an impudent liar. He declared in the Vajjan capital, Ajita, the general of the Lichavis, has been reborn in the great hell. But I have not been reborn in the great hell, but in the company of the 33 gods. He is an impudent liar. Thus, Sunakata, I know what I have said by my own mind, but I have also been told by a Deva. And now, Sunakata, I will go into Vesali for alms. On my return, after I have eaten, I will go for my midday rest to Patika Putta's park. You may tell him whatever you wish. Then, having dressed, I took my robe and bowl and went into Vesali for alms. On my return, I went to Patika Putta's park for my midday rest. Meanwhile, Sunakata rushed into Vesali and declared to all the prominent Lichavis, "Friends, the Blessed Lord has gone into Vesali for alms, and after that, he has gone for his midday rest to Patika Putta's park. Come along, friends, come along. The two great ascetics are going to work miracles." And all the prominent Lichavis thought, the two great ascetics are going to work miracles. Let us go along. And he went to the distinguished and wealthy Brahmins and householders, and to the ascetics and Brahmins of various schools, and told them the same thing. And they too thought, let us go along. And so all these people came along to Patika Putta's park, hundreds and thousands of them. Stop here for a moment. So you see this Kepochi. Go and publicize all this Radio Malaysia. And Patika Putta heard that all these people had come to his park and that the ascetic Gotama had gone there for his midday rest. And at the news he was overcome with fear and trembling, and his hair stood on end. And thus terrified and trembling, his hair standing on end, he made for the Tinduka lodging of the wanderers. When the assembled company heard that he had gone to the Tinduka lodging, he instructed a man to go there to Patika Putta and say to him, "Friend Patika Putta, come along. All these people have come to your park, and the ascetic Gotama has gone there for his midday rest. Because you declared to the assembly of Vesali, the ascetic Gotama claims to be a man of wisdom, and I make the same claim, etc. However many miracles he performs, I will perform twice as many. So now come halfway. The ascetic Gotama has already come halfway to meet you and is sitting for his midday rest at your reverence park." Stop here for a moment. So this, the Buddha took up this boaster's challenge and went halfway to meet him. More than halfway, the Buddha went up to his park, to his forest park. But when he heard the Buddha came, I quickly ran away. The man went and delivered the message, and on hearing it, Patika Putta said, "I'm coming, friend, I'm coming." But wriggle as he might, he could not get up from his seat. Then the man said, "What's the matter with you, friend Patika Putta? Is your bottom stuck to the seat, or is the seat stuck to your bottom? You keep saying, 'I'm coming, friend, I'm coming,' but you only wriggle and can't get up from your seat." And even at these words, Patika Putta still wriggled about but could not rise. And when that man realized that Patika Putta could not help himself, he went back to the assembly and reported the situation. Then I said to them, "Patika Putta, the naked ascetic, is not capable of meeting me face to face unless he takes back his words, abandons that thought and gives up that view. And if he thinks otherwise, his head will split in pieces." Then Bhagawa, one of the ministers of the Lichavis, rose from his seat and said, "Well, gentlemen, just wait a little till I have been to see whether I can bring Patika Putta to the assembly." So he went to the Tinduka lodging and said to Patika Putta, "Come along, Patika Putta, it is best for you to come. All these people have come to your park, and the ascetic Gotama has gone there for his midday rest. If you come, we will make you the winner and let the ascetic Gotama be defeated." And Patika Putta said, "I'm coming, friend, I'm coming." But wriggle as he might, he could not get up from his seat. So the minister returned to the assembly and reported on the situation. Then I said, "Patika Putta is not capable of meeting me face to face unless he takes back his words, etc. Even if the good Lichavis were to think, 'Let us bind him with thongs and try to drag him with yoke oxen,' he would burst the thongs. He is not capable of meeting me face to face unless he takes back his words, etc. Then Jalya, a pupil of the wooden bowl ascetic, rose from his seat, went to the Tinduka lodging and said to Patika Putta, "Come along, Patika Putta. If you come, we will make you the winner and let the ascetic Gautama be defeated." And Patika Putta said, "I'm coming, friend, I'm coming." But wriggle as he might, he could not get up from his seat. Then when Jalya realized the situation, he said, "Patika Putta, once long ago the lion, king of beasts, thought, suppose I were to make my lair near a certain jungle. Then I could emerge in the evening, yawn, survey the four quarters, roar my lion's roar 3 times, and then make for the cattle pasture. I could then pick out the very best of the herd for my kill, and having had a good feast of tender meat, return to my lair." And he did accordingly. Now there was an old jackal who had grown fat on the lion's leavings, and he was proud and strong. And he thought, "What difference is there between me and the lion, king of beasts? Suppose I were to make my lair near the jungle." So he chose a lair accordingly, and emerging in the evening, he surveyed the four quarters, and then thought, "Now I will roar a lion's roar 3 times." And he gave out the howl of his kind, a jackal howl. For what has the wretched howl of a jackal in common with the lion's roar? In just the same way, Patika Putta, you live off the achievements of the welfarer and feed on the welfarer's leavings, imagining you can set yourself up beside the Tathagatas, Arahants, Sammasambuddhas. What have you, wretched Patika Puttas, in common with them? Then, being unable, even with the aid of this parable, to get Patika Putta to rise from his seat, Jalya uttered this verse. Thinking himself a lion, the jackal says, "I am the king of beasts," and tries to roar a lion's roar, but only howls instead. Lion is lion, and jackal, jackal still. In just the same way, Patika Putta, you are living off the achievement of the welfarer, etc. And being unable, even with the aid of this parable, to get Patika Putta to rise from his seat, Jalya uttered this verse. Following another's tracks and fed on scraps, his jackal nature he forgets, thinking I'm a tiger, tries to roar a mighty roar, but only howls instead. Lion is lion, and jackals, jackals still. In just the same way, Patika Putta, you are living off the achievements of the welfarer, etc. And being unable, even with this parable, to get Patika Putta to rise from his seat, Jalya uttered this verse. Gorged on frogs and mice from threshing floors, and corpses cast aside in charnel grounds, in lonely forests, while the jackal thinks, I am the king of beasts, and tries to roar a lion's roar, but only howls instead. Lion is lion, and jackals, jackals still. In just the same way, Patika Putta, you are living off the achievements of the welfarer, feeding on the welfarer's leavings, imagining you can set yourself up beside the Tathagatas, Arahants, and Sammasambuddhas. But what have you, wretched Patika Puttas, in common with them? Then, being unable, even with this parable, to get Patika Putta to rise from his seat, Jalya returned to the assembly and reported on the situation. Then I said, Patika Putta is not capable of meeting me face to face unless he takes back his words, abandons that thought, and gives up that view. Even if the good Lichavis were to think, let us bind him with thongs and try to drag him here with yoke oxen, he would burst the thongs. He is not capable of meeting me face to face unless he takes back his words, etc. If he thinks otherwise, his head will split in pieces. Then Bhagavan, I instructed, inspired, fired, and delighted that assembly with a talk on Dhamma, and having thereby delivered that company from the great bondage, thus rescuing 84,000 beings from the great path of peril, I entered into the fire element and rose into the air to the height of 7 palm trees, and projecting a beam for the height of another 7, so that it blazed and shed fragrance, I then reappeared in the gable hall in the great forest. Stop here for a moment. So here The Buddha, in leaving, showed them a miracle because they all came in thousands hoping to see miracles. And there Sunakata came to me, saluted me and sat down to one side. I said, "What do you think, Sunakata? Has what I told you about Patika Sutta come about or not?" And he said, "It has, Lord." "And has a miracle been performed or not?" "It has, Lord." "Well then, you foolish man, do you still say to me after I have performed such a miracle, 'Well, Lord, you have not performed any miracles'? Consider, you foolish man, how far the fault is yours." And Bhagava, at my words, Sunakata left this Dhamma Vinaya like one condemned to hell. "Bhagava, I know the first beginning of things, and I know not only that, but what surpasses it in value. And I am not under the sway of what I know, and not being under its sway, I have come to know for myself that quenching, by the realization of which the Tathagata cannot fall into perilous paths. There are, Bhagava, some ascetics and Brahmins who declare as their doctrine that all things began with the creation by a god, or Brahma. I have gone to them and said, 'Reverend sirs, is it true that you declare that all things began with the creation by a god, or Brahma?' 'Yes,' they replied. Then I asked, 'In that case, how do the reverend teachers declare that this came about?' But they could not give an answer, and so they asked me in return, and I replied, 'There comes a time, friends, sooner or later, after a long period, when this world contracts,' etc., etc., as in Sutta number 1. Beings are born in the Abhasara Brahma world and stay there for a long time. When this world expands, one being falls from there and arises in an empty Brahma palace. He longs for company, and other beings appear, and he and they believe he created them. That, reverend sirs, is how it comes about that you teach that all things began with the creation by a god or Brahma." And they said, "We have heard this, Reverend Gotama, as you have explained. But I know the beginning of things, and I do not come under its sway. And not being under the sway of what I know, I have come to know that quenching, by the realization of which the Tathagata cannot fall into perilous ways. There are some ascetics and Brahmins who declare that the beginning of things was due to corruption by pleasure. I went to them and asked them if this was their view. 'Yes,' they replied. I asked them how this came about, and when they could not explain, I said, 'There are, friends, certain devas called corrupted by pleasure. They spend an excessive amount of time addicted to merriment. The mindfulness lapses and they fall away,' also as in Sutta 1. That, reverend sirs, is how it comes about that you teach that the beginning of things was due to corruption by pleasure." And they said, "We have heard this, Reverend Gotama, as you have explained." And the Buddha continued, "There are some ascetics and Brahmins who declare that the beginning of things was due to corruption of mind. I went to them and asked them if this was their view. 'Yes,' they replied. I asked them how this came about, and when they could not explain, I said, 'There are, friends, certain devas called corrupted in mind. They spend an excessive amount of time regarding each other with envy, etc. And the minds become corrupted and they fall away,' also as in Sutta number 1. That, reverend sirs, is how it comes about that you teach that the beginning of things was due to corruption of mind." And they said, "We have heard this, Reverend Gotama, as you have explained." There are, Bhagava, some ascetics and Brahmins who declare that the beginning of things was due to chance. I went to them and asked them if this was their view. 'Yes,' they replied. I asked them how this came about, and when they could not explain, I said, 'There are, friends, certain devas called asanya satta, unconscious beings. As soon as a perception arises in them, these devas fall from that realm, remembering nothing,' also as in Sutta 1. And they think, 'Now from non-being I have been brought to being.' That, reverend sirs, is how it comes about that you teach that the beginning of things was due to chance." And they said, "We have heard this, Reverend Gotama, as you have explained. But I know the first beginning of things, and I know not only that, but what surpasses it in value. I am not under the sway of what I know, and not being under its sway, I have come to know for myself that quenching, by the realization of which the Tathagata cannot fall into perilous paths. And I, Bhagava, who teach this and declare this, am wrongly, vainly, lyingly, and falsely accused by some ascetics and Brahmins who say, the ascetic Gautama is on the wrong track, and so are his monks. He has declared that whoever has attained to the stage of deliverance, called the beautiful, finds everything repulsive. But I do not say this. What I say is that whenever anyone has attained to the stage of deliverance called the beautiful, he knows that it is beautiful. And this Bhagava said, indeed, Lord, they are on the wrong track themselves who accuse the Lord and his monks of error. I am so delighted with the Lord that I think the Lord is able to teach me to attain and remain in the deliverance called the beautiful. And the Buddha said, it is hard for you, Bhagava, holding different views, being of different inclinations, and subject to different influences, following a different discipline, and having had a different teacher, to attain and remain in the deliverance called the beautiful. You must strive hard, putting your trust in me, Bhagava. And he said, Lord, even if it is hard for me to attain and remain in the deliverance called the beautiful, still I will place my trust in the Lord. Thus the Lord spoke, and Bhagava the Wanderer was delighted and rejoiced at the Lord's words. It's the end of the sutta. This last part, the Buddha hinted to him that he must strive hard and put his trust in the Buddha, but he did not take the hint that he should become a monk disciple of the Buddha. Then the Buddha can teach him. I think we'll stop here. And anything to discuss?
Question. As I'm seeing from the suttas, the word Dhamma is put in various contexts. What kind of meanings does it have?
The first meaning of Dhamma is the Buddha's Dhamma. The Buddha's Dhamma is the Buddha's teachings. And the Buddha's teachings refers to reality, the truth about the world. Because the Buddha said that having become enlightened, he knows the world with its devas and maras, ascetics, etc. And he teaches the reality about the world, that the world is an unsatisfactory place, a dangerous place with different kinds of planes of rebirth. If you are not careful, you can go into woeful planes of rebirth. And then he teaches a path out of this round of rebirths, because the round of rebirths is unsatisfactory, is suffering. A lot of people find it hard to accept the Buddha's teaching that the world is dukkha, suffering. Basically, because people are not aware of the ghost realm, not aware of the hell realm. Because we don't see, we don't quite believe. That's why. And also because the human realm is a place, is a happy destination of rebirth. So life in the human realm is good. That's why most people, when we die, we're not willing to die. We want to cling on to life. So when they hear that Buddha says life is suffering, they don't accept it. But when a person is dying, you look whether he's happy to die or not. Most of the time, you find people, when they are dying, they are crying. They don't want to go. Why? Because 2 or 3 days before they die, they can see another world coming up. And when they see another world coming up, most of the time, it's a frightening world. And you ask them to let go, they cannot let go. How to let go? Because what they see is so frightening. The worst suffering we have in the human realm is nothing compared to the ghost realm, nothing compared to the hell realm. So you ask them to let go, they will never let go, because it's so frightening. You see people who are suffering at the last moment, some just because of old age, some because of sickness. And the body is giving them so much pain, and they prefer to cling on to life, cling on, and suffer day by day, until they just can't bear it anymore. We have a threshold of pain. Beyond the threshold of pain, we can't stand it anymore. But even beyond the threshold of pain, because of the fear of being reborn in that woeful plane of rebirth, they still cling to life, cling until they cannot cling anymore. Then only they will let go. So a lot of people, they don't believe in the Buddha's teachings, but at the last moment, then all this comes true. Too late, they find out. Many of them, they have been promised when they die, they will go to heaven and all that. But when they are dying, they don't see heaven. So that's the first meaning of Dhamma, about reality, about the world. The second meaning of Dhamma is states, mental states. Also mental objects. What else? Anybody remember any other meaning of Dhamma? Dhamma has several meanings. Nature is like reality. At the moment, I can only think of these three. Yeah.
All of us think that the human realm is we are in a happy way of existence. And we always think that being in the ghost realm and the animal realm are suffering. The worst of course is the hell realm. But you see, yesterday we went to the home of these disabled people. When you see all these young people, some of them young, some of them are old, and you look at them, that to me is like hell on earth. Hell in this human realm.
Yes. In the human realm also we have different levels. You think you're happy, but there are also other people happier than you, humans who are happier than you. And some are worse than you, what you saw. Those mentally retarded people, they are a bit like animals, a bit like in the ghost realm. So even with the Deva realm, you find also there are some extremely happy, so happy they cannot utter a word. And those are in the third jhana realm. And those in the second jhana realm, they are so happy, they keep saying happiness. Every day they are like blissed out after ecstasy pill or something, but much higher. Their happiness is much higher than what they get from ecstasy pill. And it lasts for millions and millions of years. And yet, there are lower devas who have difficulty finding their food. Snake spirits, bird spirits, river spirits, these are low devas. So they are a bit like human beings. To get food, they have to kill. They have to hunt and kill to get food. That's why some of them, when they hear the Buddha's teachings, they are not happy, because they cannot practice it. So, but then generally devas have a good life. And humans also have a good life. That's why the Buddha classify these two as a happy destination of rebirth, and the other three as woeful destinations of rebirth.
The Buddha forbidden. The Buddha did not allow his disciples to show miracles to make present.
To what?
Do not allow his disciples
Monk.
to show miracles.
To work miracle. Yeah.
To lay people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we see that he has performed miracles.
Yeah.
Do you think he has double standard on this? And what is the reason?
He is the teacher, so he makes rules for his monks. Most of the time he keeps, but sometimes when he finds it useful to work miracles, then he does so. That's why the Buddha said, don't have sila bhatta paramasa. Sila bhatta paramasa is too attached to sila, rules. And rituals refers to all the religious things that we do, chanting, even acharya vata, duty to the teacher, that also is a vata. And many things, anything in concerning religion is a vata. So the Buddha said it has its use, but don't be too attached to it. You must always know what is the purpose of the sila, what is the purpose of that vata. So even though the Buddha said that some of his disciples, they would rather die than break his precepts. And yet, when the Buddha was about to pass away, the Buddha said, if the Sangha decides, the Sangha can abolish certain minor rules. So in the Patimokkha of a monk, 227 precepts, only 2 classes of precepts are considered major. The Parajika, consisting of 4 precepts, and the Sangha consisting of 13 precepts, which adds to my 17. So the balance, 200 over precepts are considered minor. But at the same time, I mentioned that the Buddha did not say which of the minor precepts can be abolished. So he left it to the Sangha to decide. If it is necessary, then they can abolish it. So, like in this case, the Buddha, although he says generally not to show psychic power, but when he finds it useful, then he shows.
Okay. And can you explain a little bit more why the Buddha does not allow his disciples to show miracles?
He did say, he said, firstly, it's shameful, it's like striptease act like that. Secondly, the Buddha said, there are such things as mantras, and mantras also can work miracles. If you chant certain mantras, if you know those mantras, they can work miracles. So the Buddha says that if you work miracles, people who have faith will have more faith. But those who have no faith, which is the maybe majority, they will say that this is, you are dabbling in black magic, dabbling in mantras and all these things. So instead of having a good effect, may have a bad effect.
hard to become human, to land in the human realm, as there are so many other realms on the planet? Is it hard to become a human? Because in hell, I'm thinking hell you can get pygmy or an animal.
In the suttas, the Buddha says that all beings generally, after passing away, the chances of going into the woeful planes are more than to the happy destinations of rebirth. So, you take, for example, human beings. Actually, in the human realm, we create a lot of karma compared to the devas who enjoy themselves most of the time, and then compared to the animals and ghosts and hell realm, where they suffer most of the time and unable to do much about their situation. So in the human realm, we create a lot of karma, and a lot of people don't understand the Dhamma, don't understand the law of karma vipaka, don't understand that there are realms, frightening realms of rebirth. So we follow our tendencies, and our natural tendency is greed, anger, hatred, and ignorance or delusion. So when we follow our natural tendencies, we are selfish. We fight. From the moment we are able to, then we fight for survival, and we want to get the best of everything. So in the course of struggling to survive, and not only survive for yourself, survive for those you consider to be yours, your family and all that. So sometimes we create evil karma, and most of the time, for worldly people, they don't realize it. And so after they die, they go into a woeful plane. And the surprising thing is, even people who don't do really evil, ordinary people, live an ordinary life. When they pass away, most of them will go into the ghost realm. Why? Because as a human being, we are in a good situation. So we are able to enjoy the good food that we can get, and go and touring around the world, enjoy rock music or etc. All the pleasures of the senses. So when we indulge in the pleasures of the senses, we use up our merit, use up our blessings. So by the time we are about to pass away, our blessings has reduced below the qualifying mark to become a human being. So we naturally fall into the ghost realm. That's why a lot of people, after dying a few days, they come back. People can sense that they come back. You can hear somebody walking, footsteps, but you don't see.
So you mentioned that the probability of humans and going down to the woeful place is greater than the probability of going up.
Yeah.
So over time, through rounds of rebirth, there should be no more humans left, because
No.
Because everyone has either gone down or they have actually made it to Arahant, and the same for devas as well.
Actually, the Buddha says the world is created by our consciousness. So it's like a dream. So hell is unlimited accommodation. All the realms are unlimited. So our world is made by our mind. Each person's world is made by his mind. So it's like a dream. You can't think in terms of calculate how many human beings, calculate how many.
Okay. So you are saying that most humans, when we die, go to the lower realm. then you see the world population year by year is increasing. So whether there's all these beings, accumulate so much in our life, then come into the human realm.
All in your mind. Actually, the sutta says that a long time ago, there was this world was so well populated with people that towns and cities were just next to each other all over the place. And a cockerel could just walk from one town to another town. So now you think the population is exploding, there's a population explosion. Nothing, it used to be a lot more. I don't think like Munching, in terms of numbers and all that, because when we dream in our dreams, the numbers, whatever numbers, when we wake up from the dream, there's all disappeared. So the Buddha, in Mahayana, they say when you become a Buddha, you have liberated all the beings in the world. When a person becomes a Buddha and enters Nibbana, all the beings in his world have all disappeared. His mind stopped, his consciousness stopped. So all the beings in his world disappeared. But all the beings in your world has not disappeared. They will all be, they will all enter Nibbana with you when you enter Nibbana. That kind of view is a bit different from what the Buddha says, If you consider that in this human realm there is also hell and there is also heaven, it is only true to a small degree, because in the human realm, the happiest humans, however happy we can be, is only equivalent to the very low heavens, But there are much higher heavens where the happiness is much, much higher. And the most unhappy beings in the human realm are those who are suffering, for example, in Africa or some starving nation. At the very worst, also cannot compare to like the ghost realm or the hell realm. Cannot compare at all to the hell realm. But you can see like some people, they go out of their mind, they're crazy. Maybe their karma is so bad, they are thrown out of the house by the children and they walk on the streets. Sometimes you can see this in Asia. They walk on the streets and babbling and crying and all these things. So you can imagine the mind is utterly miserable and suffering. But still it's nothing compared to the hell realm where they are poked and their skin alive and thrown into the boiling pot and forced to climb up a thorny tree and some in the hell of excrement, swimming about in among excrement and all this. So it's nothing. So a lot of people like this, because they don't see, they don't quite believe. But because they are supposed to be Buddhists, so they say, heaven and hell is all here. It shows that they doubt. They doubt what the Buddha says about realms of existence.
But they also believe that it is not possible to be born as an animal, and they describe the animal in terms of animal nature or ghostly nature in the human characteristic, rather than the realm of existence.
That only shows they don't study the sutta enough.
Actually, the topic is touched on health. Actually, this question came to me first, but I thought of another question now, more topic for us. So how to go to health? What should we do specifically for us? How also get back on track of Dhamma in this life? So as I'm still interested. I think the most important question is not how to become close.
So your question is, how do people fall in hell, is it? The Buddha says, he taught us the precepts. So the first precept is not to kill. So if you kill a lot, and there's a first way to go to hell. For example, people who hunt and kill a lot of animals, or people who slaughter animals as a livelihood. So there's the first. Secondly, if you cheat, for example, cheat a lot of people. How to cheat a lot of people? One way you can see nowadays is politician. Corrupt politician. Corrupt politicians, they cheat a lot of people, and they get filthy rich, and that's another way. And then the third way is sexual misconduct. People who engage in sexual misconduct and cause families to break up, and it's not only they do it only once, they do it very often, and with a lot of people. Then fourthly, lying. Lying involves cheating also. Cheating people. Also, it can be similar to like corrupt officials and all that, who cheat a lot. Also people who on the business world, they cheat. For example, like this scandal in China, tainted milk and all these things, just to make money, they cause people to die. So there's lying, and then like selling drugs and all this, selling drugs to cause hardship to a lot of people, dealing in drugs, and then also people who sell weapons, and you know that the weapons, for example, arms dealers, they sell to different sides, both sides, so cause people to kill each other. So all this wrong livelihood. Okay, so these are the ways you go to hell.
Just now the question is earlier part, it says that Buddha said most human beings will fall to woeful pain. But what I notice around me, people don't really did what against the 5% as much as you said. But yet Buddha still says most people will fall below. So I still cannot visualize that.
Hell is very different from the ghost realm. So I mentioned that a lot of people, even without doing evil, they will fall into the ghost realm because they have used up their blessings. They don't have to kill, they don't have to cheat people and all these things. They still fall into the ghost realm.
How do I have a deranged person to be better off? I think this life is the perfect for me.
A deranged person. You better call the doctor.
No, the doctor, she's being under the care of
If doctor cannot help him, how can you help him? You cannot help everybody in the world. Even the Buddha also cannot help everybody in the world.
You feel so desperate because related to you. Since young and you keep thinking of it. Until today you still cannot do it. And you still burden with this burden. And you still adore the person who most like over. Because you feel that you can't even help yourself. So-called path. How are you? But still, I still want to answer from Sunday yourself.
The family members, those close to us, are very difficult to help. Close family members are hard to help because they are used to seeing you, the old person. So unless they see you change yourself, you got to change yourself first before you can change somebody else. You got to improve yourself so much that they are impressed by you, and then only they can change. So it's not easy. And the Buddha says, if a person is in the mud, cannot help another person out of the mud. You got to get out of the mud, then only you can help another person get out of the mud.
Among Buddhists, there is one common belief that the last thought, the last thought in your mind will determine where you go. Does this has any base in the Sutta?
I think what you're talking about is what these people who believe in Abhidhamma, they teach that when a person is dying, you must tell him to have a good thought, and then he will go to a good rebirth. This is too simplistic. Too simplistic. In the Sutta, we find sometimes when some of the Buddha's lay disciples are dying, then the monks go to them and advise them to think of the heavens or to think of something very lofty. And then some of them are reborn in the high heaven. But that's provided they have good karma. Okay? And then there's one sutta where the Buddha's cousin, Mahanama, came to ask the Buddha. He said, Bhagavan, I was thinking one day I might have a violent death. I mean, he didn't say it in exactly those words, but his meaning was he might have a violent death where he might be run over by a horse carriage or by a bullock cart, or he might be killed by some bandits and all these things, something like that. So having dying in a very frightening situation, he asked the Buddha whether he would get a bad rebirth because he thought the last thought is frightening, last thought is fearful. So the Buddha said, don't worry, Mahanama, for a long time you have practiced the Dhamma. And the Dhamma, the stream of Dhamma will bring you upwards to a good rebirth. Now when you consider this, if you listen to my talks, you would know that I say, a person pronounced dead by the doctor is only clinically dead. He may not be really dead. The Buddha says that when a person really dies, three things will stop. One is the life force itself. Secondly is the consciousness lah, the thoughts lah. Third is the body heat lah. Okay, so usually when a person is dying, after some time the doctor finds that his heart has stopped and the breathing has stopped lah. Then the doctor says this person is dead. That is clinical death lah. Okay, clinical death. But usually that person will live on for another 1 or 2 hours lah. Sometimes even longer lah. So during this 1 or 2 hours, the mind is still running, and those are real last thoughts lah. And those real last thoughts are beyond anybody's control lah. It is by habit lah. What you think. But what you think in those very last moments is your habitual thoughts lah. That's why it's important to cultivate our mind. When we cultivate our mind by meditation and all that, we train our mind to be disciplined, to think wholesome thoughts lah, or if possible not think at all. So those thoughts will determine where we are reborn. For example, one lady told me, one lady in Penang, she told me that the mother died of cancer. And when the mother was pronounced dead by the doctor, she died in pain. So the face was contorted in pain, you can see. But the daughter told me 1 hour later, the face changed, and became so happy and cheerful and bright. So evidently, she had a good heart. If you have a good heart, you're thinking of good thoughts. So, because you think of good thoughts, you see good things. Your place of rebirth, you can see it's a happy destination. So you're so happy. Okay?
As my grandmother just passed away, and when she passed away, my aunt invited some Buddhist monks to chant for her, and they claim that after chanting for 8 hours, then the physical compassion will be very light and delightful. So I'm wondering if it is possible. If after my grandmother died, then we give her chanting, will this affect the destination?
If it will help, the Buddha would advise us to do all the chanting when somebody dies. I don't believe that it can help. When the person is pronounced dead, you probably won't be able to hear anything anymore. So what's the use of all the chanting?
Especially a person who's a habitual practitioner, who's a very strong faith in Dhamma, the Buddha Dhamma Sangha. And say, for example, this person is killed, and he or she is very brave, and he takes it with a stride and had to go. Would that mean that he would be able to die as he do that he gives up the will to live his very life? Say that person has accumulated enough.
Oh yes, where we go for rebirth depends on our karma. So if that person has accumulated a lot of good karma, that person would have the confidence that he's going to a good place. So when he dies also, I don't think he'll be scared. He knows that he's going to a good place. Okay, can we stop here?